universal aspect, if you like, of
Yeah,
the issues.
that was something that drew me tremendously to 15 in the first place.
What?
That drew me tremendously to 15 in the first place was the capacity to approach stories in quite a universal way because of the way the show was being conceived. I might answer that in two ways, actually. One the the more peripheral way. I remember, John and I pulling our hair out from time to time because it was a show that had to be broadcast on both sides of the border. So not universal in a world sense, but certainly universal in a North American sense. And as soon as you starting to sit down to write that kind of show, you start discovering things like nobody can go across the street for a pop, because although that works in British Columbia, it does not work anywhere south of the border. And neither can they go for a soda, because not only does that not work at all in Canada, but outside of, I think, California is the heartland of the soda in the United States. So you start spending endless amounts of time trying to think, okay, what words can we actually use which aren't going to jar for anybody in the audience and stop them dead in their tracks?
Right.
So we wound up having a lot of kids go across the street to the Avalon for a coffee at one point, at the risk of stunting their growth, but at least that's the universal language. Caffeine cuts across the border. So universality was an interesting challenge in that regard. But in a broader sense, in a more meaningful way, one of the things that I've always totally loved about teen drama is that when you are a teenager, when you're an adolescent, and I think it was brilliant of John to pick 15 as the core age of the show, because that's the age at which, that's the fulcrum age, I think, for most people, as on that pivot from childhood into young adulthood. The stakes are extraordinarily high at that point in your life. Everything is a new experience at that point in your life. So the huge issues, the divorce, the alcoholism, pediatric cancer, those huge issues that 15 dealt with, absolutely, the stakes are extraordinarily high in that regard, as they would be for an adult. But the stakes when you're 15 are also extraordinarily high over, does she like me? Does he think I'm a geek? Did I make a fool of myself at the dance? Am I looking like an idiot sitting by myself in the cafeteria? All of are my clothes cool? If they're not cool, what do I do about it? All those kinds of issues, which as adults we simply chuckle at. And dealing with one's own kids, certainly as a parent, I find myself sort of chuckling indulgently at the triviality of this concern, and then suddenly realizing, no, my daughter's 15. This is not a trivial concern. This is an immense concern, not for me, but it is for her. So having a chance to deal with characters who are at that kind of, they're really at a sequence of crossroads. As characters at the age of 15, 14, 15, 16. And because of that, dealing with a teen soap like 15 allows you to deal with those specific and seemingly trivial issues, which in fact have universal significance, because of course they also are a springboard towards the very kinds of issues that continue in different ways to absorb us throughout our lives. Does anybody really get past that kind of gnawing adolescent insecurity? Does anybody really and truly ever get to the point where they are so secure in themselves that they're able to step aside and step beyond any concern over how they're being perceived? Does anybody truly feel ever in their lives that they know exactly how to stand in the world and where to stand and what makes sense of it all? So in a way, dealing with storylines which can be in fact very lighthearted, storylines where we know that nobody is going to die, in a teen show are also ways to deal with universal human concerns and universal human issues, which I think will resonate with any age group.